If you're anxiously attached, whether you like it or not, you are more vulnerable to both avoidance as well as narcissists. This is because the anxious attacher fears abandonment, just like an avoidant. The difference is the anxious attacher tries to control the outcome to prevent the abandonment. They try to manage the situation, whereas the avoidant simply runs from it. But the core fear of abandonment is there. And people that are anxiously attached have a degree of self-doubt. They question their own decision-making. They question their view of reality. And this makes them very susceptible to gaslighting. And both avoidance as well as narcissists are very, very good at gaslighting. They are notorious for it. The gaslighter requires somebody who has enough self-doubt that they can be manipulated. The gaslighter, they don't want to take accountability for whatever behavior it is that they're doing. So they get you to question your own view of reality, your own perception. So you can wind up blaming yourself, and the gaslighter avoids accountability for whatever it is they did. And routine gaslighting has a psychological effect on the person that's being gaslit. They learn to question themselves, they become more anxious, they become more insecure, and they start to really question their judgment and doubt their entire view of reality. It's psychologically damaging. And because you fear losing the relationship so much, you allow this person to continue to manipulate and gaslight you, and you don't enforce your boundaries. Boundaries protect you against emotionally unavailable as well as toxic partners like avoidance and narcissists. And they protect you from being gaslit. Because when you have a clear map of your boundaries, it's much more easy to see if this person's behavior actually fits in line with your wants and needs or not, if it fits in line with your boundaries or not. Your boundaries are what you will and will not tolerate in a relationship, what you want and don't want, what you need and don't need. Your individual boundaries are up to you based off of your own wants and needs. And no, enforcing a boundary is not fun. It's not a recreational activity, but it doesn't have to be confrontational. It can be as simple as saying, no, no thank you, or I'm not going to tolerate that. When you enforce your own boundaries and you do so with kindness, but you're firm, you're sending yourself a very powerful message. You are sending yourself the message that you have your own back, that you can rely on yourself to take care of your emotional wants and needs and take care of yourself even when it's difficult. That's a powerful message, and it actually boosts your confidence and pulls you out of insecurity. But when you don't enforce your boundaries, when you let someone walk all over them, or you don't even assert them in the first place, you're sending yourself the message that your own wants and needs do not matter, that you don't have your back and you can't rely on yourself when the emotional relationship stress gets real. That pushes you further into insecurity and puts you further into anxiety. And that's not a good place to be. And toxic and emotionally unavailable partners, they need somebody who does not enforce boundaries because they simply cannot maintain a relationship with a person that enforces healthy boundaries. When you enforce a boundary with this person, one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to respect your boundaries and work to do better, or they'll get mad at you and blame you for having the boundary to begin with, and then the relationship will come to its natural conclusion. And that's scary because you don't want to lose a relationship. But the consequences of allowing your boundaries to get violated are much worse than the consequences of enforcing them. Because if you allow them to be violated, you will get more attached, spend more time and emotional energy with a person who is not really interested in reciprocating the level of love and commitment that you have for them. You'll have so much time and emotional energy lost, and you'll come out feeling so much more anxious and insecure. Yes, it's always sad if the relationship comes to an end because you discovered this isn't your person, that they're not truly emotionally healthy. But you will have spared yourself so much time, love, and energy with a person who isn't interested in receiving or giving love in return. Your boundaries are so incredibly important because they protect you against toxicity and they protect you against gaslighting. One of the tendencies of the anxious attacher is to become a people pleaser because they don't want to lose the relationship. They fear rejection just like an avoidant. So they take responsibility for other people's feelings, wants, and needs while neglecting their own. So this is why they can so often cater to an avoidant or a narcissist because the fear of being rejected and abandoned is so great that the anxious attacher actually does self-harm by not standing up for themselves. And they come out of the relationship feeling worse about themselves and more anxious and more insecure. It is not selfish to enforce your boundaries. It is not unkind to enforce your boundaries. Taking care of yourself is so incredibly important, because if you don't do it, you're only hurting yourself. If you don't have your own back, who will? And a healthy partner will respect and honor your boundaries. A toxic or emotionally unavailable partner will not. And it's much better to free yourself to be available for the right person than waste time, energy, years, and love on the person who simply isn't willing to give or receive it in return. You're not selfish for enforcing your boundaries. You're emotionally intelligent if you do.